Okay, we're not doing my normal intro for this episode review, because what the heck was this episode? How am I supposed to review this? This one is all over the place, and this is by far the wackiest episode and just silliest episode in the anime's entire history. Like, this is even wackier than some of Sun and Moon's wackiest moments. Like, even the Lily Play episode and the one after it were the Halloween special, where all the stuff was going on in that episode. This episode even tops that in terms of wackiness. Oh my gosh. I just don't know how I'm gonna review this. I'm gonna try, but, well, I guess we'll see what happens. Anyways, if you like this type of content, be sure to like and subscribe as I cover this series on a weekly basis. Anyways, let's get on to this review, which will be split into two different parts. Okay, the plot is pretty basic in part one, and actually both of them, but part one, Go is entering this Magikarp jumping contest, and there's this guy named the Kasa King that's also like he's basically a bodybuilder, but he also has been winning this tournament, and Go wants to enter this tournament and win and beat him, but his big Magikarp, the Lord of the Lake, for some reason in the span of 2 episodes, it just got super fat out of nowhere. So Go and Ash decide to train it, work it out, and basically use the Kasa King's methods to basically get ripped. And that's what they proceed to do. It does a bunch of training, including training against a boulder, which I guess we're going to have to assume is Ash's, because Go did not catch one. So it's got to be either Ash's or the professor's. But anyways, they end up getting ripped, which is pretty funny, and Red Boots over here, he's not having any of it. Also, I want to mention that Team Rocket appear at the beginning, and there's some nice references here, but there's really not a whole lot to say about Team Rocket in this episode. They're kind of just there for exposition. But anyways, we get to the tournament, and Go faces off against pretty much all these opponents. He gets all the way to the semifinals. We skip literally to the semifinals, and Go wins easily against his opponent before facing off against the Kasa King. And, well... It's revealed that Go's Magikarp has actually done so much training that it had literal weights on its fins, and they're so heavy that the Machamp that are going around, working for the tournament, one of them picks up the weights and it literally throws their back out, and they have to be taken out with a stretcher, which is kind of funny. But Go's Magikarp trained so much for this. Not only did it shoot past the Kasa King's shiny Magikarp, which lands on the ground and faints, it literally shoots into the frickin' atmosphere and goes into space and doesn't come back down. And because it doesn't land, because it doesn't fulfill the rules of winning the tournament, well, I guess the Kasa King remains the undefeated champion, or I wouldn't say undefeated champion, but he remains champion. And Ash and Go assume the worst for the Lord of the Lake, because it appears that it has gone into space and it's never coming back, unfortunately. More on that in a little bit. So, this segment of the episode I actually enjoyed a little bit more. I thought the one problem I do have with this segment is I do feel that it was paced really fast. So we literally shot through the whole episode. We went from training, which didn't last very long. We went right to the tournament, and well, the training was super effective because yeah. Anyways, but I will say overall, this segment was okay. It's not really that remarkable. It's just more gag. The comedy is awesome, but for the rest of it, it's kind of unremarkable. So I'd probably give this segment maybe a solid 6 out of 10, probably. So anyways, on to the next segment 2, I should say. In segment 2 of this episode, Ash and Go head out to a Slowpoke Island, and while they're at the island, Ash is actually eating some Odon noodles. And the Slow King that is there is actually eating Odon noodles as well. And Go tries to capture him, but he repels his Pokeball with Psychokinesis. And he ends up taking Ash's Odon noodles and eats it, and ends up switching his, basically his crown, the Slow King's crown, which has the, what do you call it? I think it's Shelter that's on it. Switches it with the Odon cup that Ash has. And so, the frickin' crown of Slow King lands on Ash. Oh my gosh. It lands on Ash, and he turns into the Sacho King, or I don't know how they're going to do this in the dub. It might be like Ash King, I guess. It's kind of weird, but, yeah. So, he starts acting a lot. He acts kind of strange in that, he's going to be basically a Sato King, or like basically a Slowpoke master. And he wants to lead the Slowpoke. They eventually manage to knock the Slow King crown, the shelter that's on it, off of Ash, and it ends up landing on Go, who then becomes the Go King, and he wants to capture all the Slowpoke. He wants to be a Slow King, but he wants to capture all the Slowpoke, so reiterating his goal in this way. But they end up knocking it off of him. It lands on Raboot and Pikachu, and then they repeat the cycle for a long time until Magikarp, the Lord of the Lake, out of nowhere lands on the island and saves the day pretty much, and switches Slow King's crown with the Odon Noodles. And so Magikarp is not dead. And that's pretty much the end of that segment, literally. And then we go back to Team Rocket, and that's when the Kasu King shows up at the door, and James is just like, yeah, he's had enough of this. And just closes the door, and that's literally where the episode ends. So, while I did kind of like some of the comedy in this segment, I felt like this part dragged on, and it really wasn't as enjoyable as the first part. Sure, there were some nice moments here. I did like the comedy, though, like I said with the first part, but this segment, I don't know, I feel like this part of the episode really dragged on. It's weird. This whole episode was so weirdly paced, and I don't know, it's weird. Like, I'm glad that these episodes were just these two, like, their own, like, mini segments within one episode, because I don't think either of them would have worked as a full episode. I think they would have been really bad as a whole episode, to be honest. But, I don't know, I just felt like this segment, the whole, the Slow King crown just getting knocked around, just landing on them, I felt like that kind of dragged on way too long, and I kind of just got bored of it. But yeah, so this segment, I'd probably give it maybe like, I don't know, I don't want to be too cruel, but I really didn't like this part of the episode. Probably like a 3 out of 10, honestly. If I'm being completely honest, I enjoyed the first segment more than the second. So overall, I will say I do appreciate the fact that instead of making these 2 separate episodes, they put this as basically 2 segments and 1 whole episode. The only bit of continuity is the Magikarp coming back at the end. That's literally tying everything up. But overall, the episode wasn't really, it's not super important. It's more just like a fun episode. Very gaggy. Like, the comedy is a 10 out of 10 this episode. The rest of it, I'm kind of iffy on. So I rated the first segment of this episode a 6 out of 10, and the second segment a 9 out of 10. So if we, get a full score for this episode, it gets a 4.5 out of 10. So it's probably one of my least favorite episodes of Journeys so far. It's not the worst episode of all time. I do think that there are certain elements that could have been done a little bit better, but I did appreciate the comedy in this one. So yeah, I'd like to hear what you guys think of this wacky episode. Yeah, this is kind of a bit of an unconventional review because this episode was just kind of all over the place and kind of difficult to basically give a full-fledged review on this one. So yeah, that's all I got for this episode review, I guess. So anyways, guys out there, what'd you think of this episode? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What'd you think of the episode being split into 2 smaller segments? Let me know in the comments down below, and be sure to like and subscribe. I'll talk to you guys later, as, next week's episode is definitely going to be an interesting one with Sonia and Raihan showing up, and I'm very excited to see what's going to happen. Anyways, I'll talk to you guys later. Have a great day, everyone, and stay safe out there, everyone.